Hey everyone, here we are to review the Boss Octave OC-5 and OPFXS Dig Deep Sub-Harmonic Octaver, but I'm using the V-Uno pedal. So the V-Uno pedal is basically programmable and it allows you to use many different effects. So this one is configured to be the Dig Deep. So both of these pedals, they are octave pedals in which you can apply the sub-octave effect only to the lower strings. So this is very good for things like fingerstyle, where you want to play multiple strings, but you only want the octave effect to apply to the lower strings, like the bottom 2 or 3 strings. So on the Boss OC-5, that is called the poly mode, and you can see that there is a range knob where you can change the frequencies that the effect applies to. These two are really similar in terms of I/O. One input, and the output is stereo out. If you have a Y cable, you can actually split it and you can program it such that one out will have the bass effect and one out is just a direct out, your original guitar sound. For the Boss OC-5, the same thing, one input, and when it comes to out, you can plug both in, and again you can split the signal, one with the bass effect and one with your original guitar sound. Now both these pedals actually have a -2 octave. So on the original Dig Deep, you can't do -2, but on the V-Uno version, there's a Dig Deep MK2, and that allows you to use a -2 octave function. The OC-5 has a -2 function, but if you're in the poly mode, this knob is used for the range function, and only after you have turned the knob past that range amount, the -2 will start kicking in. So in other words, when you're on the poly mode, you can't really use the -2 function and specify the range at the same time. One of them has to go. One important thing to note about the octave pedal is you only want to send the sound of your strings to the octave pedal. So in my case, I have 3 pickups. One pickup is this magnetic humbucker pickup that only picks up the sound of the strings. Other pickup I have is a microphone and a tap body sensor inside, and those later two are for percussive sounds like this. But all these sounds are if they are processed on the octave pedal, they sound really bad. So you want to avoid that, and so I'm only sending the sounds from this particular pickup to the octave pedals and then mixing down all the 3 pickups later on. For the first sample, you're going to hear it with everything mixed together with effects as well, and you can see whether you can tell a difference in that context. Hope you enjoyed that. That was with the whole system, with effects and so forth. And the first pedal is the OC-5. And of course, the second is with the Dig Deep instead. Now, I'm gonna play again just a little bit now, this time with just only the magnetic pickup. And then again, we're going to do a blind test between the two different pedals. And then you can see which one you like. Alright, so that was just the magnetic pickup and then the two pedals. And the first pedal you heard is the Dig Deep. The second pedal you heard is the OC-5. Hope you enjoyed the sound samples. I personally prefer the Dig Deep more than the Boss OC-5, but it might depend on the style you're playing, which tunings you're using, and so forth. It might also depend on factors like your pickup sound. Now, some major differences. In terms of the Dig Deep, the adjustment for the range, you can go much lower than the OC-5, and this means it's more suitable for much lower tunings. The other big difference is you might notice in the samples, you can hear the 6th string very prominently in terms of the bass effect, but the 5th and 4th is not so much. And this is even after I've added a bit of compression. And even if I add a lot more compression, the 4th and 5th strings are still much quieter compared to the 6th string. So the bass effect really only applies to the lowest frequency much more. That's good if you only want the very lowest string to be most prominent, but it's bad if you want a more even sound across the different notes. So the OC-5, you've heard it, it's much more even across the frequencies that the octave effect applies to. So that's a plus point depending on how you're using it. And in terms of the range, this is actually the lowest range that I have been using for that song, and you can't go any lower. Any lower, it will activate the -2 octave effect. So you're much more limited in terms of going to lower tunings. But at the same time, I find this knob really good to adjust to the specific frequency that you want, much better than the Dig Deep. Besides these bass pedals, there are other bass pedals. Most of them don't have the range function. So if you use it, it applies to all your strings. There's one other exception, which is the EHX Bass 9. So that has a split mode, in which it takes I think the lower string starting from a F sharp onwards, and it applies the effect there. The problem with that is, I think if I'm right, there's no way you can change the range. So it's kind of fixed. And this means if you change tunings or you only want the effect to apply to a certain frequency, you don't really have the flexibility of adjusting that.